We are live here, there. We are on over here and on over there. Let me get my pin comment up and then we will get into what we need to get into here. Everyone, hope everybody's having a great day. Had a great weekend. Whatever time of day it is for you, afternoon, morning, evening. Y'all see the topic. What we're going to get into here today is why you are a terrible boss, why you are a bad boss. You are doing a poor job of being in charge, a poor job of being a boss. I'm going to explain what this means. So I'll talk about, I have a show that comes out every day. For those of you who don't know, it's called Work on Your Game. You can find it on your favorite audio apps like Spotify or Apple. Again, it's called Work on Your Game. And I've talked about how to be a competent and highly effective boss in episode 2304, also episode 1465. But today I'm going to explain to you why your organization is not performing at the level that it's supposed to be performing at. And when I say your organization, you don't need to own a company. You don't even need to be an entrepreneur. When I say your organization, I'm talking about you personally. All right, you are an organization. So you Incorporated is a business and why I say that you are a business, because when you were born, it costs money for you to be born. It costs money to get you out of somebody had to pay to even get you discharged from the hospital if that's where you were born, or for the pay for the midwife and the doula if you got born at home. It costs money for your baby food. It costs money for your diapers. If your parents took you to the hospital to get a bunch of shots and jabs, that costs money, whether the insurance paid for it, something else paid for it. So the point is, it costs money to be born. And when you die, any of you who's ever been involved in a funeral process, somebody in your life passed away, you understand that casket costs money, the funeral costs money, the party after the funeral costs money, the hearse costs money, the renting out the place where the funeral happens, all that stuff costs money. So it costs money to be born. We agree with that. And it costs money to die. We agree with that, right? And everything in between, like what we're doing right now, costs money. The clothes you have on cost money. The food you're going to eat today costs money. The device that you're listening to me on right now, that costs money. All right, nothing in life is free. So it is a business, because money is being spent and money is being made. Hopefully you've made some money at some point ever in your life, whether from a job, business, or something else. Money is being exchanged. All right, that makes it a business. Definition of a business is there's an exchange of resources. All right, that's what makes it a business. So you are an organization. You are a business organization, and I'm here to let you know why you are doing a poor job of running your organization. I'm looking over here on Instagram, and for whatever reason, Instagram is not. Instagram is not. Let me discard this. I'm gonna start another live on Instagram because for some reason I am not getting. It doesn't seem like it has populated my stream over on IG. So let me start over on Instagram. Instagram restarting in 3, 2, 1. Checking connection. It says that I am now live. So let me start that again over on IG and make sure that this goes out the way it's supposed to. For whatever reason, it wasn't before. All right, are we in on Instagram? All right, so I'm starting again on Instagram, whether it goes or not. As I told you, what we're gonna talk about, the reasons why you're a bad boss and what you can do about the situation. Now, most importantly is what you can do about the fact that you're a bad boss. And as I just explained, for those of you who are on IG, as I'm starting this one over because it didn't populate the way it's supposed to first time through. You are an organization. It costs you money to be born. It will cost money when you are dead. And everything you do in between, also known as life, that costs money. It costs money to eat, costs money to have a place to live, food, clothing, shelter costs money. You got bills that you got to pay all the time. The electricity costs money, the car costs money, gas costs money, school costs money, taxes cost money. So that means there's a business. Or money is being exchanged, there's business. Whether even if all the money is going in one direction, not the other direction, it's still a business. So you are head of an organization. I'm here to tell you today why you are doing a poor job of being head of your organization. Everybody got it? Good. First point, before we get into it, let me actually introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year professional athlete, author of 35 books, done 4 TEDx talks, created this brand called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we take the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world. We translate those tools over to the business and professional world to help people like you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and produce more results. We are in the results business. So if anybody didn't know, We are in the business of helping you perform, do so consistently, and produce results, whatever those results may be for you. You decide what results you want. We will help you perform at your best, help you systematize it so you can do it consistently and produce those results over and over again. That's what our whole business is about. So anybody want to know what I do, that's what I do. And our program where we do that is called Work on Your Game University. There's a link in my bio wherever you're watching me to get involved if you would like to. Getting into point number one, topic again is why you are a bad boss. First of all, any of you who's ever had a boss in your life, and your boss can be at work, your boss could have been a teacher at school, your boss could have been a coach on a sports team, it could be your parents at home when you were growing up. You know why bosses get listened to? Does anybody know why? Why do people listen to a boss? Why do you listen to your boss? Anytime you've had one, why did you listen to that person? Not necessarily because they were a good person, not necessarily because they were extremely qualified, whatever that means to you, or competent, because they might not have been either of those things. You know the reason why you listen to a boss? You listen to a boss because they have the power to enforce their rules. That's what makes them a boss. What makes you a boss is the power that you have to enforce your rules and to enforce your desires, whatever it is that you want on your subordinates. That's what makes you a boss. And I'll take all questions at the end, by the way. So if your parents told you, for example, to clean your room and you didn't do it, you knew that they had the power to enforce that directive upon you. They could do something to you, whether back in the days, get your ass whooped. Maybe these days they might take your phone away, or I don't know what the punishment is parents are doing to kids in that age bracket these days. But the point is you respected it because you knew they could do something. If your boss says, have these on my desk by Wednesday at 4 p.m., and you feel like it's too much work and you won't be able to get it done by Wednesday, you will still figure out a way to get it done. Why? Because if you don't get it done, you know that the boss can do something to you and to your job status if you don't follow through and do what you're supposed to do. Same thing in sports. If you're playing a sport and the coach says do something and you don't really feel like doing it, you know that if you don't do it, then you might lose playing time. You might not be on the team anymore. And something about the situation is going to be worse for you because the boss can enforce a rule. The reason why a boss is a boss is because they have the power to enforce a rule upon you. That's what makes them a boss. It's not because of their resume, not because you like them, not because they're a good person. They might not, none of those things may even be true, but you still have to listen to them because they're the boss. All right. So most of you listening to me have had a boss at some point in your life. Maybe you have a boss right now. Maybe you are a boss right now. The challenge that many people have, and the reason why I say you're a bad boss is because many of you do not listen to yourselves the way you've listened to other people who have been bosses to you. In other words, if your parents said clean your room, you did it because you knew you get your ass whooped if you didn't do it. Now, when you tell yourself to do something, are you doing it with that same level of discipline? Are you having the same level of commitment? If you say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 5 a.m. and go to the gym, are you waking up at 5 a.m. and going to the gym? And if you don't, what happens? If you don't listen to yourself, what happens? Again, what would happen if you didn't listen to your boss at work? You know something's going to happen. If you don't listen to yourself, though, what happens? I just want to leave that question sitting there. How many of you have ever had in your life an extremely demanding boss who seemingly didn't care, or either didn't understand, or even if they did understand, they just didn't give a damn how hard it was for you to do the stuff that they were telling you to do? Any of you ever been in that situation? You had a boss who was making you do a whole bunch of stuff that was really hard, and it was against an extreme, completely ridiculous, unreasonable deadline. They were making you do it, and you knew if you didn't do it, there was going to be a problem for you. Not for them, but for you. And you figured out a way to do it anyway. How many of you ever been in that situation? Any of you have ever had a boss like that? Whether it was one of your parents, whether it was a coach, whether it was a religious leader, whether it was just someone who had authority over you, and they would just have you doing stuff that you're like, that's impossible for me to do it. But somehow, some way, you figured out a way to do it because you knew if you didn't do it, there was going to be a problem. And you figured out a way to do it. That's the key. Now, let me ask you a question. Why are you not holding yourself to that same standard? Again, when the boss told you to do it, you did it. So why can't you do it when you tell yourself to do it? This is what I mean by being a bad boss. So when I say you're a terrible boss, this is exactly what I mean. You are not holding yourself to that same standard. And I'm going to tell you the fix for this, by the way, as we get through these points. But we got to lay out the problem first. So if we're not clear on the problem, then there's no need to talk about a solution. So when the boss told you to do something, you figured out a way to do it, even if they were throwing impossible stuff at you. So I have a coaching client, coaching member. He works in basically a corporate type of environment, but he gets to run his own office and situation. He tells me all the time, Dre, they just threw all this stuff on my desk. I got to get all this stuff done by like Friday, and today is Tuesday, and this is like 3 weeks worth of work, and they give me like 4 days to get it done. And he complains about it, but guess what? He always figures out a way to get it done. That's the point. He complains about it, but he always figures out a way to get it done. You know why? Because when you respect what the boss can do as a consequence, you figure out a way to get the job done. You need those same level of consequences over yourself when you tell yourself to do something. You can be the boss of yourself the same way. Why? Bosses have consequences and repercussions that they can levy against you when you do not follow through. All right, everybody got it? And I know some of you are listening to this and thinking, well, yeah, I gotta toughen up and be my own boss. Not so fast. Okay, let me get through my points. I'm gonna tell you what you actually should do, because many people hear something like this and that's the conclusion that they come to. And many of you are jumping to that conclusion already. I already know, because I've talked about this stuff before in the past to different audiences. Don't do that. All right, do not come to that conclusion. Listen, hear me out, and I'll tell you exactly what to do that actually works. Because telling yourself I just need to toughen up and be more disciplined. Well, haven't you tried that before? All right, let's not bullshit here. All right, haven't you tried that before? Okay, so that's not the answer. All right, so I know you think that's the answer, but that's not the answer. That's the reason why I'm here and doing what I'm doing, because if it was that simple, I would have just posted a tweet and you would have had the information. So if a boss gives you a gargantuan task with an impossibly short deadline, you do everything you do to get it done, even with these impossible time demands, because you have respect for the authority of the person who can levy the consequence. There's a lesson in all this. And when you look at this and you look at yourself, you can catch that lesson. And some of you are getting that part, but let's continue. Let's move on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is you are a terrible boss. Number 2, what are the rules? Remember what I told you. All of you is a boss of your own organization right now. Even if you are not a boss, like in fact, like on paper at any organization, you are a boss of you. You yourself, you're the boss of you. Look in the mirror, you're the boss of that organization. Organization of you incorporated. You're the boss. Let me ask you a question. What are the rules? There's an open question. What are the rules? Any of you who's ever had a boss in your life, there were rules, right? The reason that you had a boss, because they told you what the rules were and they would enforce the rules. And you knew that if you were violating the rule and if the boss found out, you were going to get in trouble. Everybody agrees with this? There are rules. When I worked at McDonald's, when I was in high school, there was a rule. The rule was, we're going to post the schedule every week on Wednesday, whatever day the schedule got posted. Your job is to find out what days you're on the schedule, and then you need to show up on time in uniform and ready to work. All right, that was one of the rules. And if you showed up, if your schedule said be at work at 8:00 and you got there at 8:15, maybe the first time they might give you a talking to. Maybe the second time you might get some paperwork written up about you. Maybe not. Maybe the second or third time you got fired. Now, what's the point? The rules were clearly stated. That's the point. The rules were clearly articulated. You see, nobody can play stupid when the rules are laid out. The challenge that many of you have is that you are inconsistent in your performance because the rules are not clearly laid out, which makes it easy for you to break what are not actually rules. And let me remind you, actually, for most of you, let me inform you that any rule that is not enforced is not a rule. It should be called what it actually is, which is a suggestion. Anytime you have a rule that is not enforced, is not a rule. It's a suggestion. For example, this building that I live in, building I'm in right now, there's a swimming pool, very nice swimming pool area, nice gym area, nice. The pool is very nice. It's actually heated. I mean, it's hot in Miami, but it's a heated pool, whatever. And nice jacuzzi area inside and all that. So there are rules that get posted. I remember when I first moved into this building, they would send emails out. Whoever the management was when I first moved in, they would send emails out because they noticed that people were consistently not following the rules of the pool area. So any of you who's ever lived in a building like this or in areas like this, you know that in the pool area, they say things like, excuse me, don't bring food in the pool. So you can have food, but you got to be over there where the food is, where the grill is, but don't bring your hot dog and get in the pool. That's one of the rules. And this is anywhere in Miami, they all like this. Or it'll say, don't bring drinks in the pool. So if you're having a little party over here by the grill, don't bring your glass of champagne or your can of beer and get in the water with the can of beer in your hand. You can't do that. That's a rule. Or they'll say, don't bring dogs in the pool area. Do not bring dogs in the pool deck area at all, because we know what dogs do. Dogs will piss on the little grass. Dogs will piss on the ground. Dogs will poop on the ground. Do not bring dogs in the pool area. Now, these are 3 of the many rules that they have about the pool. The rules are posted right there up on the wall. And what would happen is when I first came into this building, again, it was different management then than it is now, but the same thing still happened. And I would sometimes just be sitting out there like on my computer or on my phone working, but I would see the people at the pool. And there's another rule. They would say, don't play music out loud. So don't be bringing a Bluetooth speaker and play music out loud at the pool. All of these are rules that are posted. And every building I've lived in, they had the same rules. I remember sometimes I'd be sitting out there and I would see people violate. I see somebody come up there with a dog. Obviously, the dog's right there. People getting in the water with food and drinks, and people playing music out loud. And I remember once I saw the management, because I know who they are. I saw the people from management. It was like 3 of them. And I remember this was like a Saturday or Sunday. It was a lot of people outside. It might have been a holiday, like July 4th or something like that, Memorial Day, something like that. And I saw them on the inside. They were all gathered together, talking to each other, and they were looking out at the pool, and they could see people breaking the rules. They saw people with dogs. They saw people with drinks. They saw people playing music out loud at the pool. And I saw them huddling together and talking to each other. And basically, it appeared to me that they were trying to figure out what they were going to do about the situation, because clearly the rules are being broken and they're in charge and they're supposed to do something about this. And I saw them sit there and talk to each other. And after about 3 or 4 minutes, they're looking around, looking out there, talking to themselves. They all just turned around and went back in the office. They didn't do shit. And as soon as that happened, you know what that told me? See, I'm not a person who brings dogs or drinks, or I don't even drink. I don't have a dog, and I don't even like playing music out loud around other people. I don't need everybody else to hear what I'm hearing. I'd rather have my headphones in personally. I don't even do those things, even if I want to. But as soon as they did that, you know what it told me? It told me the rules here don't matter. That's what it told me, that the rules don't matter, because if somebody breaks them, they ain't gonna do nothing. And it's the same thing that you unconsciously realize about other people when they try to tell you that there's a rule, but then the rule gets broken and they do nothing. Everybody notices that. Even if people don't say anything, they notice it. Whenever a rule is not enforced, it now is no longer a rule. It is now a suggestion. So I see still to this day, and this was maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, that when that happened, what I'm just telling you, I still see people bring food. People still bring their dogs. People still bring alcohol. People still play music out loud, because nobody enforces the rules. And if you don't enforce rules, nobody follows them. I've lived in other buildings where they did enforce the rule. And as soon as you start breaking it, the security was like right there in your face. Like, yo, you can't do that. And I respected it because they enforce their rules all the time. So my question to you is, what are the rules? Again, this is my question to you. This is a rhetorical question when I'm asking it to you, but it is not a rhetorical question when you ask it of yourself. What are the rules? Do you have clearly laid out rules for yourself and in the areas of your life that matter to you? Whether that's professionally, whether it's your health, whether it's financially, whether it's your relationships, whether it's whatever else you're doing, do you have clearly articulated rules? And if you don't, then that's to tell you why you're not following through on the things that you quote unquote want to be doing. Are the rules clear? Because bosses have clear rules. Any of you ever had a boss in your life? Did that boss have rules? They didn't all have the same rules, but they had rules. All right. Don't be late to work is a rule usually when you work at a company. If I tell you that something needs to be done by Tuesday, it better be done by Tuesday is a rule. All right. If you had a parent and they said, clean your room or you can get your ass whipped. All right. You found out if you didn't clean that room, what happened. All right. Now you understand that that's a rule. Or clean your room, I'm going to take your phone away. Maybe that's what they do now. You understand that it's a rule. Or you won't be able to go to that party, or you can't go on that vacation, whatever it is. What are the rules? Again, I'm just asking this question. What are the rules? Do you show yourself the same respect that you show your bosses? And in turn, if you have other people subordinate to you, do you enforce the rules such that they understand that you're serious when you say there's a rule? If you have people working for you, or you have kids and you tell them here's the rule and they break the rule, what do you do? A rhetorical question from me to you, not a rhetorical question from you to you. Any of you who have subordinates at work, or you have kids, or you're a sports coach, or any of you who's in a position of authority you have authority over other people in certain aspects. Do they know what the rules are? Those people who are subordinate to you. Number one, do they know the rules? And number two, when someone breaks a rule, what do you do? If anything, because if you have a rule and you don't do anything when it gets broken, then you don't really have a rule. I'll give you another example. I was working at a movie theater. This is when I was like a freshman in college. I was working at this movie theater, and and any of you ever worked at a movie theater before, or if you haven't, you may not notice, there's a lot of people who work in a movie theater. There's a big staff because it was this big building, huge standalone movie theater. So it's probably like the staff alone, it's probably like 50, 60 people who worked there. And it was like 5 managers. Excuse me. So the main manager, I forget the guy's name. I think his name was Tom or Tim, something like that. This old, ineffective white guy. And he was basically a pushover is what he was. And what I mean by that is basically anybody who wanted something, they could just come to him. He would do it. He didn't push back against hardly anything. but we were having a problem at this movie theater. And one of the problems was people would always be late to work. So people would have and I wasn't a manager. I was just a regular worker. I worked at the concession stand, like giving you wanted some popcorn and a soda, you would come to me, I'd charge you and give you popcorn and soda. So Tom put this rule in that, hey, he told everybody, hey, I'm gonna put this chart up on the wall in the backside, and everybody's name is on it. And anytime you're late for work, we're gonna put up the date that you were late for work. And if anybody's late 3 times, you're gonna get fired. All right, he announced that. If you're late 3 times to work, you're gonna get fired. Now, I'm a person who's not late. I'm a person who's always believed early is on time is late is forgotten. I wasn't one of the people who had a problem being late, but I knew some of my coworkers, they would just show up late because they knew nothing happened if you showed up late. But now with this new process of people getting marked for being late, now you can get fired. Well, now maybe people will show up on time. Or at least Tom thought that was what was going to happen. So anyway, here's what happened. Tom puts this chart up on the wall, and one day, allegedly, I was late for work. This is what he claims, because one day I'm looking at the chart and I see my name and I see that there's a mark on there with a date that Dre was late one time on this date. And I saw Tom and I said, hey, Tom, I'm looking at this chart and it shows that it has a mark next to my name. Where'd that come from? And he said, well, Dre, what the rule is that if you're late for work, we put the date on there. And if you're late 3 times, then we're going to have to fire you. And I said, Tom, I was not late that day. That's all I said. I said, Tom, I wasn't late that day. And Tom looked at it. And he said, all right, I'll erase it and I'll take it off. And the next day he took it off. Now, was I actually late that day? Probably. But guess what? He took it off as soon as I said I wasn't late that day. Now, what did this tell me? What does it tell everybody else who works there? That these rules are not really rules. They're suggestions. So you could just keep showing up late for work. Now, one thing I will say in Tom's defense, because I ended up getting fired from that job, and not for that, I got fired. I think I cussed out a customer in front of the manager or something like that. And I know I did. And then one of my friends who also worked there, like months later, he did get fired because he kept showing up late for work. So maybe somebody decided to start enforcing the rule. But that story that I just told you is a true story. I said to him, I wasn't late that day. And that's all I said. I wasn't late. And he said, I'll take it off. And he did take it off. This guy was a complete pushover. And he was the head manager. He was in charge of all the other managers, in charge of all the workers. If those are how your rules get enforced, then of course nobody's going to follow the rules. Nobody's following it. So again, if you set a rule for yourself and you don't enforce the rule, and you have no penalties or no way of holding yourself accountable to the rule, then you don't really have a rule. What you have is a suggestion. And many of you tell yourselves that you have rules, but you're not enforcing them. They are not rules. They are suggestions. They are hopes. They are dreams. They are wishes. Call them what they are. All right. These are not rules. Rules are enforced, folks. So you want to see an example of a rule getting enforced? Go out and get in your car, go drive through a red light, or make a right turn where it says no turn on red, or go speeding past a police officer. And if there's a cop around, they're usually going to pull you over and they're going to do something. All right. Now, they don't always do it, but you understand that there is a rule. You understand when you're speeding that if a cop sees you, you might get pulled over. You take that risk. It doesn't mean they always do it, but you take the risk that it might happen. You understand that if you break a rule, that something's probably going to happen in general society. Again, cops don't always do it. They can't catch everybody, but they try. All right. If there's a camera at a traffic light and you run through a red light, you're going to get a ticket in the mail. All right. It's happened to me before. And if you turn right on a red light when you're not supposed to turn right and you didn't stop before you made the turn, they're going to catch you. If you run through a stop sign, if there's a cop who sees you, you're going to get caught. I had that happen to me once. I'll give you another example. My freshman year of college, same year, I was in Abington, Pennsylvania. It was right outside of Philadelphia. And I was driving towards campus, and Abington's like the small little town, little quiet town. And I remember one day I was on my way to campus, and I'm 18, 19 years old, so just being stupid for no reason. There's a stop sign coming up, but I'm in this small little suburban area, and there's nobody around. I'm just rolled through the stop sign for no reason. I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't late. I just rolled through the stop sign for no reason whatsoever. And as soon as I rolled through it, somehow, some way, there was a cop there. I did not see the cop. If I seen him, of course, I would have stopped the stop sign, but the cop turned on his lights, pulled me over. I got a ticket. Ticket was like $180, something like that. So that's a rule being enforced. The second thing is I didn't have $180. I'm a broke college kid. So I got on a payment plan to pay the ticket off in like $50 every week for like whatever, or every month, something like that. And I didn't pay. I didn't pay the money when I was supposed to pay it. So then I got a letter at home that said, hey, it was like from the judge of Abington, like the court judge. He said, you were supposed to pay this ticket. You haven't paid it. If you don't make a payment within the next 72 hours or something like that, then a warrant for your arrest will be issued. Now, were they going to actually send the FBI to my house to come get me over a $50 ticket? Probably not, but it spooked me enough that I went and made that payment because I didn't even want the possibility of that happening. The point being, they had ways to enforce their rule that moved me to action. Question is, what ways do you have to enforce your rules to move yourself to action? If you don't have any, you need some, because you got to learn to respect your own rules the same way that you would respect the rules of, like I just said, that cop. Like, I could have just ignored the cop and just kept driving, right? When he put his lights on behind me and turned it into a high-speed chase, I probably wouldn't have got far with the kind of car I was driving, but I respected the rule enough to stop when he pulled me over, and I respected the rules enough to pay that ticket when they said, we're going to arrest you if you don't. All right, so again, I'm sharing this example of myself, but what ways are you holding yourself accountable? All right, again, what are the rules and are they clearly laid out? All right, so with that said, let's move on to point number 3. Now I'm going to tell you what to actually do about this. Because I think all of you who've been listening to me, you understand the issue. You understand the need and the problem here. So now let me tell you something. All right, and I'm going to answer all questions at the end after this third point. Let me tell you what this is not. What I'm giving you right here. Let me tell you what I'm not doing. And some of you have misconstrued this, so let me clear it up. This is not a motivational message to tell you to try again at motivating yourself and being your own boss and moving yourself to action and being more disciplined and let me try harder. Let me triple down on self-accountability. No, fuck all of that, because all of you have already tried that 50 times and you failed. So I'm not telling you to do that. All of you have tried that many times. Oh, I can't tell you how many times somebody tells me that I just need to, and then they fill in the blank with something that they already told themselves 100 times that they need to do, and they still haven't done it. So I'm not telling you to do that. So any of you who is thinking that, perish the thought. That is not what I'm telling you, because if that's all you needed, again, you can go watch a motivational YouTube short for 60 seconds, and they would have told you that same thing. All right, you already tried that. All right, anybody questioning this? Okay, you've already tried that, and guess what? It didn't work. All right, so let's leave that one alone. Let me tell you what you actually need to do. Okay. So while you may be motivated by the message, and maybe this will give you a nice little sugar rush, pick me up, and maybe you'll be a little bit more disciplined today based on what you heard, and you probably will be. I strongly suggest that you not triple down or call yourself tripling down or doing the same thing that you've already tried that doesn't work. All right. I suggest you not do that. Okay. Now, while you can't fire yourself as a boss from your own life, that's impossible. What you do need to do is send your boss back to basic training to be retrained on how to be a boss. In big corporations, any of you who works in corporate, especially if you're in a leadership position, do you notice that they send you to training all the time? And I have coaching clients who work in corporate and they're in leadership positions. They send you to training all the time. There's like different trainings and different relearning or re-educating or giving you another version of the message over and over and over and over and over again. They do it like every month. I work with people who are in corporate. Every month there's a different training they got to do, whether it's online, whether it's a regional one and they got to go travel somewhere, whether there's a national one, they got to get on a plane. They do it over and over and over again. The companies, when any of you has ever worked in corporate, you know, they keep training you over and over and you can't opt out. You got to be there. You got to be there the same way you had to be at work. You have to go to the trainings. I worked in corporate once in my life. I worked for a gym. I was selling gym memberships, but it was a corporate structure. And we had training. There was training that they would do, like, how often was that training? Man, maybe every like 3 months. They would do some training for the salespeople. And we had to go sit there at a little local meeting. And the regional manager would come and he would sit there and fucking talk for like 8 hours straight. And I would fall asleep in the meetings. And I almost got fired for that because I fell asleep in the meetings. It was boring as shit. But you had to do it. The point was they had it in place. They continually trained you over and over again on your job. In corporate, they did this. They continually remind you of what you're supposed to be doing. Any of you who works in corporate knows exactly what I'm talking about. Any of you who doesn't work in corporate, let me ask you a question. What are you doing to continually retrain yourself on your job? Because if you ain't doing nothing, that's a problem. Everybody get it? If you're not doing anything, that's a problem. Now, again, I ain't saying corporate is perfect. I could criticize the corporate structure in many ways, but I will give credit to it in that it is continually training and retraining people on their jobs. Any of you who's ever worked there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you are in corporate, you at a training right now, but you're listening to me. All right. They always do it. They don't give you a chance to forget your job. All right. People forget their jobs over the weekend. All right. So any of you who is a boss, let's say you're an entrepreneur and your business is not a corporate structure, but you have people working for you, you better be training them. You better be continually retraining them on their jobs because they forgot. All right. Today's Monday. They forgot their job Saturday and Sunday. you better retrain them on their jobs because they're not going to remember. All right. They don't own that business. You own it. They don't care about it the way you do. So I'm telling you all that to get to the more important point was about you. What are you doing to retrain yourself on your work, on what you're supposed to be doing? Again, in every aspect of your life, how are you reinforcing what you're supposed to know, what you're supposed to be doing, and how you're supposed to be performing and delivering? Are you doing this? And when you are a boss in an organization, again, they don't just hand you the label of boss and just throw you out there to figure it out, right? Do they do that? Any of you who works, again, in any type of corporate structure, when you got hired for your position or promoted to your position, didn't they put you through some training to show you how to do it? Or did they say, hey, good luck, you're now the regional manager. All right, figure it out. All right, we'll talk to you next year. Did they do that? No, they said, all right, you're the regional manager. So now here's the first training you got to do. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. Here's all the books you got to read. You got to go through this whole manual. And on Friday, you got to be on this Zoom call. And next Thursday, you got to be here for this meeting. And then after that, you got to talk to this guy and her over there. And then every month you're going to be here so we can train you again on how to do the job. Is that not how it works? What's the point? They don't let you forget your job. They don't let you forget the rules. See, if you're a boss, they don't let you forget the rules when you're corporate. Now, if you don't have anyone above you, who's making sure that you don't forget the rules? What are the rules? Again, go back to my earlier question. What are the rules? If you have worked in corporate leadership, you know exactly what I mean here. All right. There's no way you can forget the job. All right. The only way you can forget the job is if you quit because they run you through the ringer of training in there. All right. Ain't no way around it. I remember when I was working at McDonald's in high school. I mentioned McDonald's earlier. Get another McDonald's story. I remember the manager, I think her name was Mary. And one day I saw Mary walking around the store, the McDonald's, and she had this big binder. And it was obviously, I could tell from the binder, there was like the rules for how the place is supposed to be run. And by the way, any of you who wants to build a business, you need to develop your binder. What is the big binder? The binder is everything that makes the business run. Documents it. So if you're running a business right now and everything's coming out of your head, you need to get that out of your head and on paper, quote unquote, whether you record it on video or audio or you write it down. Ideally, you do all three. And you want to have it documented such that your business can run even if you are not there to run the business. Eventually, you want your business to be in that position. Even if you're doing all the work right now, you don't want to have to do all the work forever because eventually, well, first of all, you ain't going to live forever. So if you want your business to continue forever, you got to document stuff. Even if you plan to hand the business over to your kids, you got to document how the business runs so they know what to do when you're not there to tell them what to do. All right, don't just leave it all in your head. Anyway, so in McDonald's, and one of the reasons McDonald's is because everything is documented. And she had this big binder, and she's just looking at the binder. She's looking at stuff like the fry machine and stuff like that. And I didn't ask her about this, but I just saw what she was doing. And she had on a polo shirt, and on the breast of the polo shirt, it said Hamburger University. It said Hamburger University, and it had a little logo, like looked like McDonald's, but it said Hamburger University. And I thought it was like a joke. I thought maybe it's just like a pretty name that they call it Hamburger University, because if you're going to work in McDonald's, you got to go to Hamburger University. I come to find out Hamburger University is a real place. And if you didn't notice, Hamburger University is a real place. Yes, it is owned by McDonald's. It's in Chicago. And if you are to become a manager, like the head manager of a McDonald's, or you're going to start a McDonald's franchise, or you're going to be the operator of a McDonald's franchise, you have to actually physically go to Hamburger University, and you have to get a Hamburger University education before you can run the McDonald's. That's a real thing. Again, look it up. You look it up on Wikipedia, because I looked this up. I looked it up a while ago because I remember when I first talked about this. And let me pull it up again so I can tell you a little bit more information. So Hamburger University is a training facility of McDonald's. It's literally their training facility. I'm reading just out of Wikipedia. Training facility at the McDonald's Corporation Global Headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. It instructs high potential restaurant managers, mid-managers, and owner-operators in restaurant management. Hamburger University's mission is to become, open quote, an organizational culture hub, introducing the continuous education process for the value chain and transforming knowledge into actual business results. Hamburger University students take courses about restaurant operations, leadership skills, customer service, operations, and procedures. All right, that is a real place. And again, it is affiliated with McDonald's. So maybe you can go to Hamburger University even if you don't work in McDonald's, I guess. The way it's worded here, maybe you don't have to work at McDonald's to go to Hamburger University. So maybe if you want to open a Burger King, you can go to Hamburger University. I don't know. This verbiage makes it seem like that, but you can, any of you want to learn more, you can just Google it and go find out, get more information yourself. So it says more than 5,000 students attend Hamburger University every year, and over 275,000 people have graduated with a degree in hamburgerology. It literally says this. You get a degree at Hamburger University. It's called hamburgerology. All right, so and I'm gonna tell you why all this matters in a second. 40% of McDonald's global leadership has attended Hamburger University. Now, why does all this matter? First of all, everybody knows what McDonald's is, right? I didn't have to explain McDonald's. All right, the reason why everybody here knows what McDonald's is because of stuff like Hamburger University. Because anybody who works at a McDonald's, there is a way that you can do things and there's a way you're not allowed to do things. Not can't, not allowed. When you run a McDonald's, they give you that binder and they say, this is the way you run the store. You can't just, even if you buy a McDonald's, you know how much it costs to start a McDonald's franchise? Anywhere from $1.5 to $5 million. You got to put that down on the table just to open the store. Notice you didn't make any money yet. You got to put down 1.5 to 5 million before you even open the store. And then when you open the store that you paid to open, you can't just do what you want to do, even though you own the place. You own it. So you start a McDonald's where you live. You got to give them, let's say, $2 million. Okay, now you own a McDonald's. Now, here's what they do. They say you got to come to our university and you got to read our binder and you got to run things the way that we tell you to, even though you own the store. By the way, that's how franchising works. Any of you didn't know. But McDonald's has probably the tightest franchise system that there is. I'm being hyperbolic there, but there are others who are probably very good too, but they may be smaller. One of the reasons McDonald's is so big and they have expanded so much, and you can go to different countries in the world, there's McDonald's. You go anywhere in America, of course, there's McDonald's. The reason McDonald's has expanded so much is because they have a great system. They don't have the best burgers. They ain't got the best fries. Those fries are not even made of real food. The burgers are hardly made of real food. But McDonald's is the biggest business when it comes to restaurants, one of the biggest in the world because they have such a tight system. Any McDonald's you go to, there's a certain expectation. There's a certain feel of McDonald's. Can we agree? There's a certain feel to every McDonald's. It smells a certain way when you walk in McDonald's. Notice every McDonald's smells the same way. Notice they all had the same certain type of feel. And you notice the menus all the same. And people generally work the same way at every McDonald's you go to. Why? Not because they got a bunch of genius people. It's because of that binder, because of that university. The point is they have rules. That's what I want you to catch. McDonald's has a clearly defined set of rules. And that's why every single McDonald's, there's certain things that you come to expect. And it's always like that because they have rules. Everybody catching what I'm saying here? Now, what does this have to do with you? You're not trying to run a McDonald's. You don't even eat McDonald's. Hopefully you don't eat McDonald's. And you're not trying to be a restaurant franchise owner. What does this have to do with you? What are your rules? Where's your binder? I'm not saying you got to have a binder that lists everything you're supposed to do in life, but I do suggest you have clearly articulated rules that you hold yourself to and are being enforced. And by the way, let me be clear, because I told you I was going to tell you not to do the double down on the same thing. Some of you need to fire yourself as a boss. All right, this is the breakthrough right here. Here's the breakthrough that I'm getting to. I did all of this to tell you the breakthrough point. Here's the breakthrough. Here's the breakthrough. I'm going to take questions at the end, by the way, and I'm almost at the end. The breakthrough is this, folks. You need to be disciplined enough to know when you need to be fired. Let me take a sip of water while you marinate on that point. Everyone listening to me, you need to be disciplined enough to know when you need to be fired. And some of you are way past due getting fired. Some of you are holding on to jobs that you should not have, and you should be fired from your job. And when I say your job, I'm not talking about your actual job where you get your paycheck. What I mean is you're holding yourself accountable to wake up at 5 a.m. You ain't doing it. You need to be fired. Again, 3 times you're supposed to wake up at 5 a.m. In the last 3 days, you woke up at 6:30. Or you need to be fired. How you going? You can't just show up late to work 3 times and it's okay. Is this true or not? Again, like my ineffective manager at that movie theater, he had the right idea. You show up late 3 times, you're fired. He had the right idea. He didn't enforce it, but he had the right idea. How many of you have told yourself 3 times or more already this year you're supposed to do something, didn't do it, and you didn't get fired? And you're still in charge. Tell me how that makes sense. Somebody explain to me how it makes sense that you told yourself you were going to do ABC, didn't do it, 3, 4, 10 times in a row, and you still are the person in charge. How is that possible? Tell me how that makes any sense. I'm waiting for someone to answer that question. Tell me how that makes sense. You told yourself you're going to get in shape this year. It's October, damn near. You're still 30 pounds overweight, but you haven't fired yourself from the job and hired a personal trainer. Tell me how that makes sense. How are you still in charge of something that you failed to do for 9 months straight? How are you still in charge? You told yourself you're going to wake up early every day so you can do ABC, whatever you're going to do when you wake up early. Meditate, write, go to the gym, just wake up because you want to wake up because you heard that's what successful people do. You're still not doing it, but you still haven't fired yourself from the job and got yourself an accountability partner or a coach or something to fix the problem, because clearly you being in charge ain't fixing the problem. Yet you keep employing yourself. How does that make sense? You know, one of the things they say about corporate America is that they don't always fire people. You basically get promoted to your level of incompetence. You keep getting promoted till you reach a level where you're pretty incompetent, and then you just stay there for the rest of your career. That's what they say about corporate. Any of you works in corporate, maybe you can co-sign that. You might not want to do it publicly, but some of you know what I mean. And some of you are at a level of incompetence, yet you will not fire yourself from the job. This is a problem. You got to know when to fire yourself, folks. You ain't good at everything. I'll give you an example for myself. So I'm good at building sales funnels. I built a whole bunch of sales funnels. You go to any of my sites, at least these days, that's going to change. But any of my sites these days, most of the funnels have been built by me. I know how to build sales funnels. I built funnels for other people. Some of my coaching clients have built sales funnels for them, and I will still do it on that level. But I decided more than a year ago that I wasn't going to build any more of my own sales funnels. Why? Because it takes too much time and it's not my zone of genius. I'm good at it, but it's not my zone of genius. The zone of genius is doing stuff like what I'm doing right now, talking to an individual person and talking to a live audience, like in person and writing. Those are my zones of genius. And if I'm not doing one of those things, it's taken away from my zone of genius. So if I'm building a funnel, I'm not writing or speaking, it's not good. So I fired myself from the job of building funnels because it's not what I want to do. It's not my zone of genius. And I'm talking about firing myself from something that I'm actually good at. And when it comes to something that I'm terrible at, I really need to fire myself. I'll give you another example. I do not like cooking. I don't like shopping for like groceries. I don't like looking up recipes. And I don't like, that's pretty much all when it comes, but I still have to eat, right? So what I do, I fired myself 10 years ago. I fired myself from making meals. I've had a meal delivery service for the last decade. And it's the same amount of money that I spend on a meal delivery service that I would spend buying groceries, not to even account for the time that I got to spend actually finding a recipe, cooking the food, washing the dishes, and all this stuff that goes with it. I fired myself from that job and hired a meal delivery service. I haven't cooked any food. I've not cooked a meal for anyone in the last 10 years. And I'm not good at cooking meals. So that's something that I suck at, and I don't even like it, and I don't want to get good at it. So I fired myself. You listening to this, what do you need to fire yourself from? And let me help you out with this. Let me help you get started on this. Most human beings are genius level at maybe 2 or 3 things. Some of you is only 1 thing. A few of you maybe it's 2 things. And if you're really, really talented, maybe you got 3. Nobody has more than 3. Your zones of genius, nobody has more than 3. Some people got 1, some people got 2, some people had 3. That's it. No more than that. You need to fire yourself from every other job and get someone or something that is better than you on the job, especially the ones that you're already failing at and you already know you're failing. I talk to a lot of men, for example. I'm 42 years of age. So I talk to a lot of men who are over the age of, let's say, 30. And many of them have a similar problem in that most of them are not, I'm talking about men who are not athletes. So they're not athletes, or maybe they used to be athletes, but they're not anymore. They work full time, either running a business or they work somewhere. And that's their main focus is their career, and they're forward moving professionally. The problem is they're not taking care of their bodies the way they want to. They're not eating the way they want to. They're not waking up early enough to go work out. They're not exercising as much as they want to. And almost every man who I work with who's over the age of 30 has this issue on some level, unless they happen to work in fitness. And those, they don't have that level. Everybody else, even the ones who work in fitness, actually, some of them had that problem. And the issue is they're not firing themselves from the job. They have not put someone more competent than themselves on the job. Therefore, they keep failing. I'm just using that as an example, but you can swap in what you keep failing at that you are allegedly in charge of, but you're failing. All right. So for example, with One of the things in the current political campaign, they said Vice President Harris is supposed to be in charge of the border, but it's crazy at the border. So she is failing at that job, but she had the job, and she's trying to distance herself from having the job. And her supporters are trying to act like she didn't have the job. She had the job and she failed. All right. You just had to admit that. She had the job. She failed. All right. That was her job. 10 million people who are undocumented came into the country in the last 3.5 years. She failed at the job. All right. I don't care whether you like her or not. I don't care if you hate Trump or not. She failed at the job. All right. Nobody can say that she didn't. She failed. That's it. If you are continually failing at a job that is your responsibility, you need to be fired from the job, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way to walk around it. So where do you need to be fired from? All right, that's the point that I want you all to catch. This is the reason why coaching exists. This is the reason why consultants exist. This is the reason why physical therapists, personal trainers, masterminds. This is the reason why these things exist, to help people solve problems that they have otherwise been unable to solve on their own. All right, these are investments, folks. You know what an investment means? An investment means you put something in now and you get more out later. The challenge for many people is that you are addicted to instant gratification, which means if you don't get anything now, you won't do it. You need immediate gratification. I got to put something in now and get something back in 5 minutes. Investment means you put something in now, you get something back over the next 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. And any of you who knows anything about, you read anything about finance, you understand that the people who make a lot of money or people who get rich or wealthy, whatever words you want to use, these people are investors. They're not earners, they're investors. Yes, you should earn money. You got a job, you earn money. But investing is where the real wealth comes from, or people rich, again, whatever words you want to use, is through investments, meaning put something in now, get more out later. And those things that I mentioned, coaching, consulting, personal trainers, physical therapists, mastermind groups, all of these things, they are investments. And the people who play at the highest level make investments. Simple as that. And this is why you need to fire yourself from the job. So when I say fire yourself, that means you are no longer on the job and you invest in someone who's better than you to making sure the job gets done. And look around. Highest level performers, they all make these type of investments. If you don't know, go ask one of them. Ask the three most successful people if they do this. Say, hey, I heard this dude named Dre. He was talking on this live stream and he said, what do you think about that? And they're going to co-sign it, and they probably won't stop talking about it if you're willing to listen. Because most people don't think like this. So if they come across one person who's willing to think like that, they'll be willing to talk to you about it. Go ask, again, think of the three most successful people personally and ask them this question. Ask them, what do you think about this guy, Dre? He said the most successful people, they get their successes. They make investments in themselves. They put something in now and they get more out on the back end. What do you think about that? And you can ask them whether they mean financially, professionally, career-wise, whether it's relationship-wise, whether it's in their business, whether it means just anything when it comes to growth, advancement, and success. Ask them what I said and see what they said. So with all that said, let me recap my points. You got a question or comment, put it in the comment section right now and I'll address it in a moment. And the topic here today is you are a bad boss. You are a terrible boss. Number one, a boss's rules are heeded because they have the power to enforce their rules. Any of you who's ever had a boss in life, your parents, your coaches, your teachers, your boss, your supervisor at work, the reason you follow the rules is because they can do something if you don't follow the rules. Simple as that. Number two, what are your rules? What are the rules for you? Because you're the boss of your own organization. You incorporated, you're the boss. What are the rules at your job, in your business? Again, you are a business. What are the rules in your business? If the rules are not clear and or not enforced, no one will follow a rule. Understand that a rule that is not enforced is better known as a suggestion. Do not say that you have rules if you are not enforcing them. Those are not rules. Those are hopes, dreams, wishes, and suggestions. Call them what they actually are. And number three, this is not a motivational message to tell you to keep trying to do it on your own. You already tried that for the last 5 years and you've been failing. So let's stop bullshitting and instead fire yourself from a job that you're not good at. Do the jobs that you are good at, which most people are good at maybe 2 or 3 things. Some of you maybe 1. Focus on the things you're great at and put people and things that are better than you in the place where they can actually help you be successful, because you being in charge of that job is not going to make you successful. Me being in charge of making my own meals and cooking my own dinner would not be a successful process because I'm not good at it. I don't like it. And it takes away from the things that I'm actually really good at. It's the same thing for you. What are the things that you are not really good at, you don't like, and even when you're trying to do them, you're still not being successful? You need to be fired. Again, you show up to work. If you showed up to work 3 times in a row in the same week late, you would get fired. right? So if you tell yourself I need to wake up early so I can go work out or so I can meditate or so I can write my book, and you're not doing it, and the whole week went by last week and you didn't wake up early not once, then you need to be fired from the job and making sure you get up early. Period. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? Okay, so this is Instagram just started to switch my audio. All right, are we good over here? Instagram, y'all still hear me? So do not take this message as to mean you need to triple down on self-discipline or making myself do it, or I got to be tougher, or I got to push myself more. No, fuck all of that. Okay, I've been doing this for too long. I've heard it and I've seen it and I've seen it fail. All right, so that's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you need to be fired. All right, bad bosses get fired. Any of you know anything about corporate? When the board of directors doesn't like how things are working, what's the first thing they do? They fire the CEO. That's the first thing that happens. The CEO gets fired. All right, they don't fire the maintenance man. They fire the CEO. So let me take questions. You got a question in the comment, put it in the comment section right now. Respect the truth. What's going on over on YouTube? Appreciate you. I'll do TikTok, then I'll do Instagram. So you got a question in the comment on Instagram, go ahead and post it, and I'll address it in, excuse me, one moment. Oh, by the way, workonyourgameuniversity.com. If you are ready to figure out, maybe you understand, you accept this message of something that you need to be fired from some things, but you're not quite sure what to get fired from and what to keep and what to do next and where to replace, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. I will help you out with this. This is what I do all day, every day for a living, if you can't tell. Christian Alex, what's going on? Good morning over on TikTok. Roshonda Martinez, good morning to you. Christian says, become your own boss. Well, all of us are already our own boss. Some of us are sucking at being a boss. That's the problem. Not that you need to become your own boss. Everybody's already their own boss. It's just some of us are just bad at it. Ka Booby, I appreciate the engagement. Bobby Dela Cruz said, how do you personally integrate leadership as part of your identity? That's it's kind of a vague question there, Bobby Dela Cruz. What exactly are you asking? You're a leader just by being yourself, because nobody else is leading you. So you're already a leader. So you got to get more specific. Emmanuel, appreciate it. Let's see. Kabubi. Oh, yeah. I think I did say something funny there. Firing yourself is funny. Rich Game Well said, I worked at AMC when I was 15 in Tampa, good old days. You got fired too. What'd you get fired for? Yeah, I wasn't 15. I was probably 18, 19, but I got fired too. I worked at 2 movie theaters. I got fired from one, the other one I quit. But the point is they had rules. The one that I quit from, they actually had rules. That's probably why I quit, because they had rules. So I couldn't lollygag and play around at the other one that I could. Other one I played around at because they had no rules. We would be eating popcorn, eating candy, showing up late for work, messing around, and we got away with it. So when I went somewhere they actually had rules, I couldn't handle it. That's why I quit. Bobby said, how would you balance grace and self-compassion versus accountability? That's another broad question there, Bobby. I suggest you just tune into these lives where I talk about these topics. Your questions are very broad, that they're not answerable as I'm scrolling through here. But if you tune into these, when I do these streams, I answer these questions in detail. Constant trainings, meetings, one-on-ones. Yes, exactly. Kabubi at McDonald's Hamburger University. Yes, a real thing. Briscoe said, you remember the ball handling back in the day, the vids? Yes, sir. I didn't have the gloves. That was another guy with the gloves, but I did the ball handling videos. I never used the gloves, but I know who you're talking about, because I still see that guy's ads. I don't even know that guy's name, but he does have a lot of ads. I still see his ads on YouTube videos even to this very day. So he's still hustling. Shout out to that guy, whoever he is. Ida, keep promises to God, yourself above everything. Yes, but see, a lot of people don't do that. And the problem is we shouldn't have to do that. That's not the most effective way to do things. Is what we need to do is get the right people in the right jobs. Rich Game said, I started as a part-time teller and became a branch manager by 24. That's what's up. Some people stay in their position even though they've been right. They stay in the same position because they didn't want to move up, or they didn't have the tools to move up. I got comfortable, complacent, didn't want to. Yes, exactly. Kabubi, you got it. Bobby said, what helped you to not take failure personally? Was it more practice or perspective? Again, another broad question. You got to tune into a live for that one. Rich Game, appreciate your time. Thank you. BWTB, thank you. Rich Game says, a couple years new management came in. Before we closed, they gave another employee a hot dog. Threw all the food away at the end of the night. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so let me get over to IG. You got a question or comment on Instagram, go ahead and post it. By the way, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Those of you who want to, if you like this message, you want to take it further and get it applied personally to you specifically, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is in my bio. All right, no questions on IG, so I guess I was perfect for Instagram these days. All right, so everybody, I do these lives Monday through Friday, starting at in between 8 o'clock and 8:30 is usually when I start. So just turn on your notifications or the bell or whatever it is you have on these apps. Between 8 and 8:30, I start these lives Monday through Friday. So as long as it's a business day, usually that's when I do it. So if you like this one, be here for the next one. And if you want to watch the replay of this, we usually keep it up maybe for a day or two on whatever app you're on, but then it'll be at workonyourgameuniversity.com. And I do these lives all the time. I've been doing presentations like this for specifically like this for about 10 years. So we got about a 10-year library of material like this on different subjects. So if you like this one, we got 10 years worth of this stuff. When you are a member of my university, again, it's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Everybody have a great Monday. I'll talk to you all soon. We out here.